And I look round and he's playing a solo with his foot.
Hello and welcome to the Keyboard Chronicles, a podcast for keyboard players. I'm your host, David Holloway, and I'm thrilled as always to be here with you. I've had a lovely evening this evening talking to Mr. Andy Bown, who is the keyboard player in the iconic rock band Status Quo. Now, Andy's held that role for more than 40 years. And that alone makes this interview worth the price of admission. But on top of that, Andy's had an extensive solo career, worked with a whole range of other artists, and generally just has an amazing outlook on life and music. So highly recommend this one. So yeah, I'll let you jump in and have a listen, and I'll talk to you at the end of the show. Andy, I cannot thank you enough, sir, for joining us. It's an honour and a privilege to be speaking with you.
Well, thanks for asking me. Yeah.
Now, look, it's going to be difficult to cover in an hour or so what we need to, Andy, but I thought I would start off with something. You are arguably one of the longest-serving rock keyboardists in history. Now, I'm not saying you're old, but what I mean is as far as longevity, you know, with a number of bands and so on. So if you had to sum up your career in 3 words to date, what would they be?
3 words. I'm not dead. I mean, that's the longevity answer, isn't it, really? It's very little to do with talent.
Oh, yeah. No, as our guest will hear, that's all right, you go.
That's not false modesty. It's just a lot of it's luck and stuff. So you could say sheer bloody luck.
I love it. Either way, that's great. And so, I mean, going back to the start or even before your career started, tell us a little bit about Andy Bown and his musical upbringing. So as a child into your early adulthood, what were your musical upbringing? What was it like? And also what got you passionate about music?
My mother, we were very poor. My mother struggled, and because she was very musical, and she struggled to pay for piano lessons for me from, I think, probably from the age of 5 or 6. And she got a good deal because I went to Mrs. White. She had half a thumb. The rest of it was a ball of fat. So she couldn't charge the full amount. So for half a crown, which is nothing, half a crown, I got 40 minutes instead of half an hour. So she got a good deal there. And I kept these lessons up and entered competitions and stuff. And I have to say, I won quite a few certificates for my interpretation of classical stuff. So at the age of 9, 10, 11. And then I peaked then. I peaked in my technique, seriously, on keyboards. That was it. Because then I stopped lessons because I went to secondary grammar school, and I didn't have lessons anymore. And then I just started tinkling around on the piano. We always had pianos. When I was about 12, 13, writing very ridiculous songs, silly little songs. Then a couple of years later, I was helping this guy. I'd met, nice guy, Tony Chapman, the original drummer with the Stones. I helped him with his drum kit. I used to go around, I was a groupie, really. I wasn't mad about groupies. I just liked the drums and stuff. So I helped him with his drums. And then their bass player left. He just left. His girlfriend told him to leave, I think. So the guitarist, Steve Carroll, lovely guy, a brilliant guitarist, brilliant singer and Chuck Berry guitarist. He could do the lot. He was fabulous. In 5 days, he taught me how to play the bass, and I did the first gig at Westram Village Hall 5 days later after picking up a bass, covered in blisters. I mean, it was awful. It was really painful, but and that was how I started. So I played bass for about 5 years, 6 years.
And did you, those early days, Andy, what was it about the performing that had you hooked?
Well, everything really. being on stage, the music. I mean, I decided by that time that I actually did love the blues. I mean, maybe because, that's where the three chords come in, all this, three chords. Huh? No offense. There are lots of other chords I like. I'm just saying that, but at the time, and I'm big Chuck Berry fan, massive Chuck Berry fan. I love playing, and we played loads of it. It was great. Well, shortly after I'd started playing with the band, the Preachers, Steve, the guy who taught me, he died. Instant laceration of the brain. He went through the windscreen in a terrible crash. And he was actually in my seat. I went in a different band that day. So, yeah, that was very, very sad. Very sad. And a great loss to the rock industry, I can tell you.
And just, I'm interested back in those days, and I've spoken with other guests, obviously in the UK scene. You mentioned village halls, and I also believe in some areas working man's clubs or whatever. Were they the sort of gigs you were doing in those earlier days?
No, I don't remember ever doing working men's clubs. We did a few pubs. They were, in the very early days, there were things like public halls, assembly halls, Worthing, Stourbridge, Kidderminster, Wallington, places like that. Justin Hall in Beckenham, just halls, and their local sort of promoter guy who usually just left university, thought he could make a few bob, and indeed did. And just, he'd go around and stick posters up, and you'd turn up and get paid anything from £15 to, some massive £40,
And how long were the gigs at that stage, Andy? What sort of length of gigs would you be playing, and how often would you be playing?
I think the norm was at least 2 45-minute spots. There were usually a couple of bands because nobody had all that much equipment. People used to share equipment then. So but the changeovers weren't a big deal. It was never slick, but it was all very exciting because nobody really expected too much. So, yeah, 2 45s, or sometimes you would do 2 hours, 2 single hours, but there'd usually be a break where another band came on, or they play records.
Yep, no, that makes sense. And Andy, when did the move come? I've mentioned in the introduction to this show that you're obviously a multi-instrumentalist. You're still, very much a guitar player, etc. But when did the move musically to you introducing keyboards into your work?
Oh, that was with the Herd, yeah.
So I was going to ask you about the Herd. So that's probably a good segue. Yeah.
We had an organist. He had a Vox Continental, and I can't remember his name. Probably best I don't. Anyway, I thought I can play better than that. That's ridiculous, because I really got into Jimmy Smith, Walk on the Wild Side, and The Cat and stuff like that. So I then taught my father into guaranteeing an L100 Hammond.
Wow.
Yeah, £800 it was.
That's a fortune. Yeah.
Fortune. And it had the wrong vibrato on it. I should have got an M100 for the Celeste. Anyway, I got this, and I was playing the organ then, so I thought that's pretty cool. And that was so I played Hammond for a bit, and I sort of learned a bit about Hammond. That's about the most technical I got, working the drawbars, I think I stopped back then learning. Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about the Herd. I mean, they're obviously an extremely well-respected band. You're sort of between 65 and 69. Tell us about joining that and what you actually learned as a sort of young adult emerging musician.
I think we changed our name to the Herd after Steve died and the Preachers. it sort of morphed into another band, and the lineup changed. Oh, so many people were in it. And then we ended up with the lineup that we had, and Howard and Blakely came along and said, ooh lovely. I like these boys. Let's use them as a vehicle for our songs. And we didn't look back. We followed in the giant footsteps of Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick and Titch. And it sort of killed the band as it was. We were building up a massive following, a big following, and because we were a bit off the wall, and this really normalized us and also made us famous. So it was a bit of a cleft stick. No, not a cleft, double-edged fork, whatever, thing.
Double-edged fork, come on, mate.
That just went on, and the herd fell apart. Peter went to, he actually wanted me. He really wanted me to go with him to join Steve Marriott, but Steve didn't like me particularly. I didn't like him either. So that wouldn't have worked. Well, Peter didn't like him either in the end. So anyway, that's all stuff.
And what was the sort of when the herd did break up? What was sort of the link in then that with joining Judas Jump and so on? How did that sort of merge into that amazing outfit?
Amazing outfit. Where do you get your stuff from?
Oh well, I watched some videos. I love some of the stuff. I thought it was great.
Videos of Judas Jump.
Yeah, there was one. When I say videos on YouTube, it was the album recording. So there were a couple of songs I listened to. I don't think they're actually videos of you playing.
Oh, no. I don't think they had invented cameras then. Anyway. Yeah, Judas Jump. It got together because Don Arden offered me quite a lot of money at the time. And I took it because I'm that kind of guy, along with Alan Jones from Amen Corner. And we sort of formed this band. Luckily, Henry Spinetti came on board because he was the last drummer of the herd. And so it was a 6-piece band. And Henry being the only one who could actually play his instrument. That's the truth. That is the rest of us were pretty rubbish. And for some reason, I keep hearing all the time about people saying, oh, Judas Jump, yeah, fantastic. They opened the Isle of Wight Festival, which was apparently really a big point in some people's lives, the Isle of Wight Festival. I don't remember much about it, but...
because I wanted to talk about Isle of Wight. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Isle of Wight in 1970, Andy, because, the lineup in that year was pretty stellar. So, you don't have a lot of recollections of that?
No. I read the lineup the other day, actually, and it was fantastic. All these big stars, and then Judas Jump. It was weird.
Well, look, I did look for video of you at Isle of Wight 1970. I don't think there's a lot of video full stop, or if any. But sadly, I wasn't able to find any to prove you wrong or otherwise. Thank you, Andy. That's good recollection. And before we get into Status Quo and subsequent work, I do want to talk about your session work. So, over the years, and particularly back in that time, but ever since, you've done a lot of great session work. And I want to ask you two specific ones. One, Jerry Lee Lewis. I'm fascinated by that, how that came about and what your thoughts were on that.
I was sort of bundled into this studio with loads of people, head, hands and feet. And there were about 10 or 12 musicians coming and going, I think. And I sat down this Fender Rhodes, which was next to the piano, and Jerry Lee Lewis came and sat down next to me at the piano. Shit. We did 3 or 4 tracks. It was awesome. It was. I still have shivers thinking about it. And I turned around once, I'm playing away there. Everybody's making a noise. I mean, it's a dreadful racket, really. And I look round and he's playing a solo with his foot in the studio. Huh? Really? I couldn't believe it. Wow. Anyway, we went in to hear the playbacks and it got to this bit. And the solo sounded as though he was playing with his feet. It was dreadful. It was dreadful. He didn't care. He only ever did one take, though. That was it. No. Him and Bob Dylan, eh?
That's fascinating. And look, I want to call back to your comments already in this interview, Andy, about how you probably hadn't mastered your instrument, that, you were a bit of a rubbish player. The fact that, you must have been bringing something substantial to the table for you to even be in those situations. So it's a question I often ask, how bad is imposter syndrome with you, and did you ever get over it?
Well, I was quite good at copying Jimmy McGriff, if you like, and Jack McDuff, Groove Holmes. Quite good at that with the Herd. When I ended up with a split. I got an A100 at Concert Hammond, split at great expense. Anyway, I was quite good at that, and we did a lot of weird stuff, and then before we met Howard and Blakely. Before they came and took us in another direction. So I was reasonably good then. In fact, I did, believe it or not, I did a couple of pub gigs with Dick Morrissey and Terry Smith.
Wow.
And I was playing the bass on the Hammond as well. Yeah. So I must have been reasonable at one point, but, it's all gone now. I don't.
Yeah. There comes the imposter syndrome again. Huh? No, that's gold. And the other session piece I wanted to talk to you about is someone that I know is extremely easy to work with, and that's Roger Waters. So I believe you had some involvement in the final cut, which, just as an aside, I know is very much underrated as a Pink Floyd album, but is actually probably my second favorite album. So just tell us about your recollections about that period.
Well, that came about because I did The Wall. Yeah, I was a surrogate Roger on The Wall, and I think we did a 2 or 3 weeks rehearsal. David was in charge, and we were getting it together, and then Roger's coming in. Everybody's like that. And Roger came in, and I thought, oh dear, it was quite nerve-wracking, really. And we're playing bass together. This was his first or second day of rehearsal. I'm really quite nervous because Roger hit this dreadful bum note, really bad. And I said to him, because I don't know, I wasn't drunk, but I said to him, if you're going to play like that, I want smaller billing. And I got away with it. Did
he laugh, Andy? Did he laugh?
Yeah, well, he did. From that moment on, we became quite firm friends, and we were very close for quite a long time. We're not in touch anymore, but at the time we went on holiday. He invited us to his place in France. We had a holiday there, spent Christmas together with the children. I used to nip round and we'd play snooker all night.
That's amazing. So I apologise, it's my poor research, but I hadn't picked up on the surrogate for The Wall. So you're talking about the amazing live tour. Was it around 1979, 80 that
did
exactly the album?
79, 80, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I've still got this.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
This is the Mars. That's it.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Come to be numb, yeah.
Oh, Andy, I'll I'll divert into that because that's again my poor research. So tell us about. I mean, would have to have been your largest 1979, 80. That would have had to have been your largest live shows you'd done to that date. Would that be correct?
No, I don't think so. No, I did. Quo did some very big
Yeah,
ones.
before then. Yeah.
We did some very big ones. Well, I don't know if Nebworth was before that or after. I can't remember.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. And but with the war, what are your recollections of that as a live show? I mean, I've seen video. I play the album to death. It's an amazing piece of work. Obviously, the music anyway, but the theatricality of it. Any particular memories of playing those shows?
Yes, I have. Very good. It's far and away the best, most satisfying work I've done. Definitely, it was perfect for me. Bit of acting, bit of this, bit of that, a few quick changes, fantastic, amazing staging. I mean, even then it was awesome. It was, the whole thing was jaw dropping. The wall, the way it all worked, and the amount of money spent. I was standing at the back of the stadium in Culver City where we were rehearsing, and Steve O'Rourke, the manager, Floyd's manager, lovely man. We were just sort of humming and hawing and looking at the staging that's going on in the distance, and he said, "Jesus," he said, "I don't know. This better work." only he said, he used swear words as well. He said, we're $2.8 million down on this so far.
Yeah.
Which was an absolute fortune at the time. This was 1979. It was a lot of dough.
Absolutely.
And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And then ABBA walked in.
Wow.
I know. It was brilliant. Yeah. I digress, don't I? Yeah.
Not at all. No, this is the digression.
It was very exciting. The whole thing was really brilliant.
And so I need to ask you, even though it's not keyboard related, you said you were a surrogate for Roger. So just because of the pure amount of movement and theatricality, you were literally playing the bass or literally standing in for Roger in particular segments while he was perhaps getting ready for others. Like, how did that actually work?
Well, I played the bass. I mean, Roger played a little bit, but most of it I don't think went out front. I had two guitars, my precision and his precision, which I took down to D. The ear string was down to D for certain things, and I would switch around for certain songs.
Yeah, wow. And I do have
yes,
to.
I played the bass.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I do have to ask one keyboard related question. During all that time, did you have any interactions with Rick Wright and any recollections about his contribution?
Yeah, Rick contributed certainly to me, Vodka and Orange. We had quite a lot of Vodka and Orange, which was nice. He was a lovely man. He really was lovely. Yeah. Shame.
Yeah, that was.
He threw a fantastic party after the war at his house near Cambridge. It was awesome. I ended up doing a double somersault over the handlebars of this track bike going around this, and I lived.
Thankfully. Yeah. No, thank you for that, Eddie. That's not a digression at all, because that's such an iconic piece of music history, that whole tour. So I really appreciate you sharing those parts. So let's talk a little bit about Status Quo. So obviously I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I know you did some recording work with them before then joining, obviously, as a full-time member of the band. Just tell us about the early days, about what clicked and you ended up sort of integrating with the full outfit.
We had the same management that was in the same offices above the Marquee at Wardour Street in Soho in London. And we'd played gigs together, a lot of gigs together in the very early days when we'd set up our own equipment and everything. In fact, I remember one particular gig at the Dominion in Tottenham Court Road, and Francis remembers it as well. Francis Rossi, he was really pissed off because we had a roadie and they didn't. So that was good. Anyway, we knew each other, and out of nowhere, I got a call saying, "Can you come put some piano on this? I think it needs something else." And I went along to the studio. I believe it was 4,500 times.
Wow.
There was this interminable period of it seemed like about 3 days on B, in the key of B. Just hit something like that. Yeah, do that. Yeah, do that. Yeah, keep going. Yeah. Where's the chord change? Just keep going. Good. It was like it just went on and on. And then the session finished. I was like, God, I'm going to go home now. And then I got another call, could you do this and do this? So over the next 2 or 3 years, I played bits and pieces for the band. And then I got a call saying, can you come? We're doing the next album. We're in Sweden. And can you come over and join in? Because it's not going that well. We're having trouble. They wanted a bit of different color or something, or, maybe just a different face. Who knows? And, well, I know, but I can't say. And I went along and we did an album. And one of the songs, Pip Williams, the producer, said, "Can you do a little bit intro on the front of this before we go there?" Just. So I did this intro. I said, "What about that?" He said, "Yeah, that's great." Okay, and that was Rockin' All Over the World.
Wow!
And that was the album. And so they wanted me in, so that was it. I thought, well, it's not really my kind of stuff. I don't really, but I need the money. I needed the money, so I thought this won't last long. I'll just take the job. Be fine. So basically, I was a hired gun for a few years, and in the end, all right, okay, fine, yeah. So
just some context there, Andy. For our listeners and viewers, some context there too. When you say this was initially, in particular, not necessarily your cup of tea, it's because from sort of 72 to 78, you'd released 4 albums that are incredibly diverse, cover so many different,
I did get it. I got it after a while, and then I really got into it. And it's rock with sharp corners. There are different bits to it that they just it can be really good. That's why people like it. I think they're not quite sure why, but it does things that are sort of wrong, but it works. Most of the time, it works.
And I do have to ask, I mean, from doing that session work to becoming a full-time member of the band, my guess, and obviously I've not met any, I've obviously not met Rick or Francis or any of the guys who are sadly passed on, including Rick, but it appears to me that sense of humour must have played a role in you fitting in, that it was as much about the hang as your chops.
You had to, one had to fit in, and one did. I mean, one didn't smoke much dope, but one fitted in.
Yeah. I love it. And so this is a hard question to keep sort of simple. What was the approach you took over the time of Status Quo as far as keyboards? Everyone knows, it's a very guitar-driven band, but there's lots of great piano in particular underneath, and some organ and stuff as well. How did you develop the sound over time where they were more amenable to having more keyboards in, and what was the sort of to and fro creatively there?
Well, Francis always wanted more. Carl, he wanted to move forward. He was and is a massive Jeff Lynne fan, and he's not content to just stay still. He wants to try stuff. I mean, some of the time, yes, playing keyboards with a guitar band, a rock guitar band, as loud as Quo, is it can be a thankless task. And on the other hand, you get things that obviously Rock All Over the World was nice, but we would never have had big hits like Margarita Time without, or Living on an Island. So certain things did change, but I guess all bands have to change a bit, don't they, as they go through the years. And we have been through some years.
Absolutely. And still continuing to
release. I'm a new boy, and I've been with the band for 47 years. So
wow. Yeah, it is an absolutely incredible story. And I bet you've been asked this a million times, and I apologise in advance, Andy, but obviously one of the things I'm proudest of as a keyboard player is that the very first notes heard at Live Aid were both yours and on a piano. So, but just moving that out to more broadly, what are your recollections of Live Aid?
Well, I think about it. Well, I've never actually watched these since then. They're just, that's it. Huh? What do you do? It was very exciting. One of my recollections. It was. I've never seen so many people. It was just awesome. But I wasn't really processing the fact. I knew I had to count it in. I knew I had to play the first few bars all by my own, but I wasn't really processing the fact that 150 million people will be listening. So it all went quite well. I was just sort of quiet and we just did it, or I just did it. I think everybody was feeling different stuff. But yeah, I just treated it like another session, another gig.
Yeah, which is probably an extremely sensible approach.
So I got away with it, yeah. I think some people were very, very nervous. Very nervous.
Had you guys done, were you already on tour and this was just another gig, or you had to do some rehearsal in the lead up?
Well, the band had, we did the End of the Road tour in 1984. A big, lot of people were sniveling away. Milton Keynes, he played to a very, very big audience, and it was the last show. That was it, End of the Road. And then, sure enough, in true rock form, we reformed again without certain members. We reformed, but yes, we decided. It was decided. It wasn't mine. I just went along with it. Francis and Rick and Alan decided to do Live Aid. So Alan came over from Australia, and everybody got back together. We hadn't seen each other for years, or a year and a half, 2 years. And we had, I think we had at least 5 or 6 days of rehearsing 3 numbers.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it with Status Quo it's physical as well. I mean, especially a 90-minute set. Now, when we've got combined age of 2000 or whatever it is, it's tough.
Look, it is indeed tough. Even as a 50-something that only plays a handful of gigs, I feel it the next day. So I can only imagine. I do want to ask you, Andy, just and without going into specifics, because I understand you won't be able to go into specifics, but you alluded to the fact that bands go through rough patches. What's the secret, given that it's, over 50 years, aside from personnel changes, what's kept things running relatively smoothly? Is it, more tolerance for each other? What tends to be your secret to getting on?
You have to, you just have to get on with it a lot of the time. I mean, there is the one thing, especially if you're touring on a bus, which I like to do because I sleep well on a bus, but there is no privacy. That's a difficult thing, and you tend to hear the same jokes. I won't go into the gross bit, but it's quite it gets quite earthy, and you just have to get on with it. However, at the end of the day, which is usually a gig day, because you can't waste money, at the end of the day, you get a payback. You've done the gig. It's great. You've done the gig. Hopefully, they love you. You had a great time, or it's been good, or not so good, but at least you've done your day's work. Then you can have a couple of drinks, go to bed, or have some nice pasta or something while we're rushing away to the next town overnight and eating on the bus. But you've done your job, so it's good. It's every day there's a reward, so that does help a great deal.
And I do need to ask you, Eddie, just with your most recent tour, what is your standard keyboard rig now with Status Quo when you do go out on the road?
It's piano, RD. I'm still using the same RD, whatever it is, but okay. And I've got the new digital Hammond.
Oh yeah,
arm and leg, but really good, and very powerful. The digital Leslie that goes with it, which is it's so loud. It's awesome. It's deafening, and that's mic'd up, obviously. And I still play the same synth, just for little bits that we have, but of course they have to sound the same. So I don't really like synthesizers. I like messing about, but I'm not a synth player, really. I just do bits on it. Basically it's piano and Hammond, and
what what's the
bluesy rock Hammond and rock piano.
Absolutely. And do you remember that? What is the synth, if it comes to mind straight away, Andy? What is the one that you've used for many years?
I tell you, I can describe it. It's got like white and black notes. And do you know, I can't.
The model numbers are so hard. I struggle to remember my own rig. So I'll take it up.
To get a nosebleed anyway.
Yeah, it'll come to you at 3 a.m. in the morning. No, thank you for that, Eddie. That's amazing insight. And I do want to cover off your solo work because I've been enjoying the hell out of it the last few weeks. And I've already mentioned about the 4 albums. And then you've got the 5th album, Unfinished Business, that you came back to do around a decade ago. Sorry. Just tell us about what itch that continues to scratch for you, because your output is amazing, and as I've already mentioned, is so diverse. So, obviously you're keen to still contribute there?
That's, it's kind of you say it's diverse, and it is diverse, and that, I think, has been my great mistake over the years. Seriously.
Oh, that's interesting.
I've always tried to, on solo stuff, I've always tried to do, or it's just come out as very varied. And I think that's a bad idea, a really bad idea. But in fact, there's one track on Unfinished Business that it shouldn't be there because it's just wrong. The rest of it's great though. Buy it, yeah?
I do love it, yeah.
In fact, there's a song on it called When the Lights Went On. I was there when the lights went on, and that tells the story of the wall and the Jerry Lee Lewis session and other stuff, and all my new best friends that I met.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely be linking to that, and also love the track Ruby and Roy, the first track, because you literally say you can't just stop because you've had enough, and I think that's what a lot of us feel like in the music industry at different times.
Yeah, yes, that was Roy Wood and me drinking gin in Aberdeen. It was a big night.
That's great. And the other one that we'll be linking to is I absolutely love the Rubber Gloves song and the video. I think I must have watched that 20 times over the last couple of weeks. Just even to create a video clip of that quality, as you know, the money isn't in video clips anymore, and I'm sure you probably didn't make a lot of money on it, but it's an amazing clip.
Oh, thank you. No, it didn't make any money. No. Well, it might do now, if you keep going
That's
on.
Right.
The riff has been taken up by an Australian firm, a gas firm.
Oh, really?
It's being used for some advertisements in Australia.
Oh, that's funny. I'll be doing my research on that one. That's great.
What's the big gas company called?
There's a few. Yeah,
it's got like AMG or something, but it isn't that. It's
AGL. There's an AGL gas. Anyway, don't worry. I will do my research. Now, I do want to ask you, and I promise this is asked of all guests, not just people that have got longer standing careers, and that's what advice would you give to an aspiring keyboard player in particular who may be just starting out and trying to establish themselves? If you had to provide any guidance, what would it be?
That is the perennial interesting question, and it was answered by Buddy Rich on a coast-to-coast big chat show, and I think a 6-year-old boy telephoned in live, and asked the same question. And Buddy Rich leaned towards the mic and said, "Slit your wrists." Well,
wow.
So my advice would be to either throw yourself in 25 hours a day, or decide to do it part-time and have a decent job as well.
Yeah.
But basically, it's hard. It's hard work. You've got to want to really, really want to. You've got to be really. I mean, I'm lazy. I'm so lazy. It's just wrong. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. I don't think. You think it has, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
It's hard work. You've got to work hard. You've got to be prepared to really work hard, and also take the knocks. But then I guess anybody would say that, wouldn't they?
That's still valuable, and I think the taking the knocks is an important thing, and it does segue into one of our regular questions, where an example of where something's gone spectacularly wrong for you on stage, so you can look back and laugh now. And I do just want to say before you go in, you had the perfect opportunity to have the best train wreck ever by mangling that intro to Rockin' Around the World at Live Aid. If you'd mangled that would still be talked about today and be the best train wreck ever.
That gives me that's really worrying. That's terrible. That's going to be a bad dream now. Thanks. I know you told me you were going to ask this question, and I can't think of any real mangling train wrecks.
That's good.
Except I do remember how I messed something up really badly. It was a gig with the Herd in the fairly early days. And if you were a good band or you were a lucky band, you would play gigs at universities, and it was good money, and it was a good crack. We went to this university. I think it might have been Exeter, to do the gig, and I'd been given by somebody three spliffs with cannabis in them, not grass. And at the time, I drank rum. I had always had half a bottle of rum. And before the show, we arrived early and set up and stuff, and then we go off and try and get something, try and steal something to eat. which I couldn't find. Anyway, I smoked one of these things and nothing happened. So I smoked another one and nothing happened. And I drank loads of rum, and then I smoked the other one. And then the next thing, I sort of woke up and I'm looking up and there's a lavatory here, and and the herd's playing on the stage, and I missed it. And I'm in this lavatory. I'm no idea what I'm doing, and I can hear the band playing. Anyway, I staggered to the stage and sort of walked on, and they looked at me, and luckily I was still playing organ, so I sat down. Because I couldn't. I sat down at the organ, and for about the next 2 45-minute spots. And I did a lot of the lead singing, and I couldn't remember the words. I didn't know which verse I was in. I couldn't make any announcements. I was just a sniveling wreck. So I guess that's a bit of a mangle,
It
isn't it?
certainly is. That's one of the best ones I've heard. That's amazing. I love the waking up in the toilet. That's brilliant.
That's horrible.
I love it. And the other one, Andy, we quite often ask is we ask each guest to tag a keyboard player. And what I mean by that is there's some keyboard player out there over the years you've admired or respected, and that if you had a choice, you'd like to hear more about their life story in music.
Bill Payne.
Thankfully, we've had him on, and yeah, what an amazing guy.
Yeah, he can really play.
Yeah.
I met him once. He was lovely, really nice. He's a fantastic player and a great songwriter. I mean, Atlanta. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, we had the privilege. Bill talked for so long, and I mean this in a positive way, that we did a 2-part with Bill Payne a couple of years back. He was amazing. Great guy. No, thank you for that.
I could look that up. I could look that up, can't I?
Yeah, I'll send you the link. Yeah, he was great.
Thank you. I mean, Brian Auger was a big influence.
Yeah. And then we have the dreaded Desert Island Discs question, Andy. So 5 albums. If you had to choose 5 albums to take to a desert island, what would they be?
Well, I've got no idea. I had to write the list because I would.
Hearing you.
Desert Island. You didn't say Desert Island when this, but the great influence was possibly the greatest. I mean, really hard to condense, isn't it? Them Dirty Blues by Cannibal Adderley.
Yeah, wow.
And Nat Adderley. And that's how I got to hear. My brother played all these. I was lucky. We had a Bush record player, and he played all this stuff. And that's how I got to find Bobby Timmons, who really turned me on. I thought, yeah, this is it. Great. And moaning. I thought it was fabulous. That really blew me away. And then other big albums. West Side Story, Oscar Peterson Trio.
Yeah.
I play it all the time. It's just brilliant. And I like the original West Side Story as well.
Yes.
The original stuff with Bernstein.
I love it.
And I love the show as well. Yeah. And my first wife actually was in the original London cast.
Oh,
she
wow.
played Rosalie. Yeah, that was exciting. Let's see. Obviously, me and almost everybody else, the Night Flyer.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, fantastic.
It has come up 3 or 4 times, but deservedly so. Yeah, Donald Fagen is obviously well renowned.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget. It's pre-Pro Tools. I mean, it's awesome. Just
it is.
The separation. What else have I got here? Oh, yeah, Famous Blue Raincoat, Jennifer Warnes.
Oh, yeah.
Leonard Cohen songs. Beautiful, fantastic. I mean, that's the best voice, isn't it, really? The best female voice.
Yes.
The best male voice being Ray Charles.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Well, that's another album I like. Dedicated to You, Ray Charles.
Hey, Charles.
Goes back a long way, along with the Late Late Show, Dakota Staton. This is going back a long, long time. Of course, a blue, Joni Mitchell, obviously. I
Yes.
mean, this isn't, yeah, and the Hissing of Summer Lawns. The Beatles, with the Beatles,
Yeah.
really impressive. That's it. James Taylor, American Standard.
Yeah.
I love it. It's got everything because they are the best songs that's ever been written with the best baritone, the best feel. I mean, the guitar work, I can't remember the name of the guy that he worked with. It was obviously a great influence on him. It just, everything about it is beautiful. Beautiful. I made notes here. Oh, yeah, On the Road Again. I know. Yeah, Canned Heat. Fabulous.
Yep. Nice.
I mean, these are big for me, years and years ago, and they've stayed with me. And yeah, Dimples, John Lee Hooker.
Oh, yep. Nice. What
I loved that.
What I'm going to do, Andy, is, and you're not unique in that many people choose more than 5. I'll pick the 5 that haven't been chosen before, and there are 5 in there that haven't been chosen before across 140 episodes. So that's amazing. Thank you.
Do you mean you're not going to choose The Night Fly? Is that what you're saying?
Oh no, I'll add it in as an honourable. I will mention the others as honourable mentions.
Okay.
I promise.
But you've got to have West Side Story, Dirty Blues, and Famous Blue Raincoat.
Yes, absolutely. They're all unique ones that haven't been chosen before. Honestly, they're great.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
You just reminded me. I actually jammed with John Lee Hooker.
All right, you've got to go on now. Keep going.
In my dressing room. Yeah. We were doing a gig. John Lee Hooker I think we were supporting him. And he walked in. And this is a long time ago. It just sat down and we started playing. And then I said, no, you can't change there. I'm telling you, you can't. That's not 12 bar. You got to, it's changed now. I mean, really, the temerity. Lovely man. Yeah.
I love that. That's absolute gold. We do have our final question, Andy, and I know we've got to let you go. But we call it our quick fire 10. So it's just 10 short answers to 10 fairly quick questions. The first one being, do you recall what the first album was you heard that made an impact on you, whether it's as a child or a teenager? Yeah, what's one that stands out to you?
Night on a Bare Mountain by Mussorgsky. My mother used to play it.
There you go. Great. Love it. Before a gig, so let's use Status Quo as the example. Before a gig, what is your most important pre-gig ritual so you feel settled before you go on stage?
A glass of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
Nice. New Zealand make the best wines. If you hadn't been a musician, what do you think your career choice would have been?
Gravedigger. No, advertising. Advertising. Yeah.
I'd buy something from you. Favorite tour you've ever done, if that's at all possible, across your whole career? Is there a tour that stood out for you as particularly special? Maybe it's The Wall or whatever.
Yeah, The Wall is the standout above all the other standouts. Yeah.
Yeah. Favorite city you've ever played, if that's possible?
There's so.
Yeah.
I love Melbourne.
Yeah.
I like Bolzano in Italy. I love Munich.
Yeah, Munich. Have you ever counted up the countries you've visited, Andy? Have you ever undertaken that exercise?
No, I haven't. But I've never been to India or China.
Okay.
So, but I've been lucky. I have seen quite a lot. Yeah.
Now, this is an even harder question. If you had to pick out one gig that is the favourite you've ever done, what would it be? A single gig, not. Yeah.
Well, if I had to pick out one gig, and it wasn't The Wall, one of the Wall shows, it would have been. standout. I suppose it has to be Live Aid
Yeah.
or Nebworth.
Yes, Ned was huge.
Was Queen at Nedworth? We did a show somewhere with Queen, a particular standout show.
Okay.
I can't remember. Nebworth was good, yeah.
Yeah, Nebworth's amazing. And then a song that you used to love, but you've now played it to death, so probably not a favourite anymore.
I would say one of the first 3 or 4 Beatles hits.
Yeah. No, good
I want to
call.
hold your hand. I want to hold your hand.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
I've had enough of that.
Yep, fair enough. Is there a music documentary or movie that you particularly have loved over the years that you've watched and it's either represented your reality or you just liked it as a music documentary or movie?
Does West Side Story, the film,
Yeah,
come into that?
absolutely it does. Yeah.
Very much. Fantastic. All
Yeah.
round fantastic.
Sure. Well, have you ever seen the documentary? And I've looked for it the last few years. It haven't been fun. There was a lovely documentary about Bernstein and his work on West Side Story and the actual conducting of the orchestra. I'm not sure it was
Yeah.
for the original recording. Yeah, I'm desperate to find that again if anyone's aware of that.
Yes, he wasn't an easy man.
No, he looked. Yeah.
However, there's a remake, isn't there? Now
Yes, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard. Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
that's pretty disgusting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how you
Why?
follow it up. Yeah, that's right. No, I agree. Name one thing you'd like to see invented that'd make your life as a keyboard player easier.
This is very strange, David. I mean, I'd never felt like a keyboard player.
Yeah, because you're. Well, that's true. Yeah.
Just don't something to make it easier. I'd read. No, I didn't read. I heard somewhere that Cole Porter used a capo sort of effect. He had a piano made where
Oh,
you could shift it, but he would always play in C. And I only recently learned. I bought a book with all his lyrics in it, and I recently learned that was bollocks. But were it true,
yeah, that'd be
that would
handy.
be interesting. You could have everything in G, couldn't you?
Yeah, that'd be
Oh.
handy.
Or if you're status quo, you can have the lovely stuff. There was always B's and F sharps.
That's right.
Yeah, God, made me feel quite some of it.
No, I love it. That's a great answer. And last but not least, what keeps you sane outside of music, Andy? So, do you have a non-musical activity, a hobby that you enjoy doing?
Keeps me sane. I've never been actually certified sane.
Yeah, good.
I like. I've got a place in the country. I like it down there. I like.
Right.
What keeps me sane? I think the thought that one day I'm going to get down to it and do something good, maybe,
Yes.
and pay attention. But it's running out now. I mean, I've got to face reality. I like pottery. I like cooking. I like cooking.
And look, I mean, contrary to your own opinion, I'd argue you've been cooking across many instruments over many years. I think you're an amazing musician and who also brings a heap of intelligence and wit to his work. Cannot thank you enough for joining us, Andy. We've barely scratched the surface, but I know we both need to dash, but yeah, cannot thank you enough.
It's been a pleasure. I can add to. I wish I'd played. I wish I'd learnt the sax.
Yeah,
alto sax. So, thanks, David.
and there we have it. So it's a little bit hard to digest everything Andy covered in that interview, but I'm just in awe of his work. I mean, what a great musician on top of his keyboard playing, his guitar work, everything else he does. And, just even little things like being the first guy to play any musical notes at Live Aid, that alone I could die happy with, but Andy's obviously done so much more than that. So yeah, cannot thank Andy enough for his time. That was absolutely amazing. And I always appreciate you taking the time to listen or watch as well. We really do appreciate it. A quick shout out to our gold and silver sponsors, Mr. Dewi Evans from the sunny land of Wales. Thank you, sir, for your ongoing support. and also a lovely sunny land, that being Canada, the lovely Tammy Catcher from Tammy's Musical Stew. Thank you, Tammy, as always. We also have Mr. Mike Wilcox from Midnight Mastering. Great guy and delivers great work if you're after someone to do a brilliant job of mixing and mastering your own creations or any other audio project you have, to be honest. And last but definitely not least, the team at the musicplayer.com forums and the Keyboard Corner in particular. Lots of great discussion in there. I know I've been jumping in and out the last few days. Again, it's one of my homes that I just love jumping in and talking keyboards. I cannot recommend it highly enough. So if you'd like to keep in touch, we do love hearing from you. editor@keyboardchronicles.com is our email address. We're on all the socials. We love hearing from you on there as well. If you are listening on audio, you'd like to check out our YouTube channel, you will find it quite easily just by typing in Keyboard Chronicles. And otherwise, just reach out in any way you see fit. So again, thank you for listening. We'll be back again in a week or two. And until then, keep on playing.